think we're up now.
Dealer Refresh is live now.
You got it? Sweet.
Okay.
It's
Miss you,
really
Jeff.
happening.
Miss you, Jeff.
Yeah. Hope you get better, Jeff.
Yep.
Matey.
Don't forget.
So y'all might have noticed that Jeff is not with us today. And that's not only a great thing. No, just kidding. We miss Jeff and wish him well, but he's in surgery at the moment. And that's all I'm going to say. No, Todd, I thought you had a. So he's getting some eye surgery done. Apparently like a glass broke last week or so, and they think
eye surgery
from it.
Yeah,
eye surgery. Yes.
So a piece of glass in his glass eye already broke. So, I mean, would he lose his captain's license for this? Or do you know, like, what would happen? Like, do they kick him off the pirate ship? Do you walk the plank? Do you swab the deck? I mean, what happens during this whole process?
That's a good question.
They pluck his eye out and make him walk the plank.
We might have to chop a leg off so he can get his peg back on later.
Yeah. Maybe he'll be good at marbles now. He just pulls out his marble eye.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hey, man, I'll keep the zingers coming all day.
Get well, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wish you well, Jeff. And in the meantime, arg.
Arg.
Yeah. So tune in next week to watch Jeff in his glass eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good thing for him. We can't joke his hair anymore. We'll just have to joke his eye.
Yeah, it's all about the eye.
So with that said, we're here today to talk about what makes a better lead or how to make a better lead. And we have Joe Pistell. I think everyone from the Dealer Refresh community definitely knows Uncle Joe. Top posters for sure, been there for years. And then an oldie who's back with the Dealer Refresh community. We haven't seen Todd in a while.
Yeah, brought the gray beard.
Oh, yeah, look at that. We are hitting those 40s now, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So, and sorry, Joe. We won't talk about age too much there, buddy.
Ouch. Of course, you guys are old as some of the kids coming up now.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
We are. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, boy.
No question. I think I graduated high school before some of these kids were going to college. Yeah. So anyway, so we're here to talk about something that Joe started back on, let's see, beginning of this month. And it's how to make a better internet lead. I'll throw that thread up here for us. Let's get a quick little look at this. So Joe, do you want to explain the background to where this thread came from?
Sure. Todd and I are jamming on the phone, talking about, wouldn't it be cool if you completely took all of the mental limits and constraints in your mind off of what an email lead can be, and with a fresh piece of paper and no limits, what would happen? And that's what we started going, whoa. And then Todd went off on a run. And he started connecting dots and seeing the big picture. And I went, wow, that was amazing. So I says, hey, let's keep the idea alive and see what other people have to say.
We want to throw a shout out to Mitch.
Always, Mitch, Mr. Creative.
Yep, he had some good ideas. You know, I think it's, to go on to Joe's thought, it's, you know, there's so much awesome big data in the world, yet it never gets brought down to an individual dealer or lead to be able to be utilized at all. And there's a large story out there that would help, in my mind, if you had all this great data, and I don't know what all of it is, but if you have a lot of appended data to the lead, it makes the conversation with the customer different. It could be more impactful. It could lead to building trust and quicker with the customer if you have some more background on them. You may find commonalities because you saw something on social that now is a connection point, that you both went to this school, you both played soccer, or you're in a rec league, whatever it is. And, the idea when we were talking with Joe is, well, what would be so impactful as a salesperson today that it would, if you had that type of data, sales would be better for you. The customer experience would be better, more appointments would be set, and with just more satisfaction.
So what kind of data could you supply to a salesperson without arming them to the point where they're creepy?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's a lot of big data, right? So understanding that you can identify leads that are now back online shopping on third-party sites. So someone who submitted a lead to Todd Smith Chevy is now online on Edmunds, Cars, any of these third-party sites shopping, or any sites that are rolling out data in that regard. So that's useful. Now, we don't want to be creepy about that one, Alex, because if I called you up and said, hey, I see you're on Edmunds, that probably wouldn't go over very well. But I think just knowing that you're still active, maybe your mind isn't totally made up to come in and buy a car from me. And knowing that, I think, would be an important attribute. Some of the other things we see beyond, social connectivity is more behavioral, what they're doing before the lead has been submitted, because you can almost dot the customer's trail, like their breadcrumb trail. So like, oh, I can tell they've been shopping for a house, they've been shopping for other things, which is kind of neat to be able to see that. And then I think the more important things that I always think about are things more pertinent. What they're currently driving, because that to me ties in, if, as I said earlier, like if it's an Audi lead and they're driving an Audi, I don't need to sell the brand. I just need to sell the product.
Well, you weren't exactly speaking to the audience earlier. You were telling me about this, which is very cool. So you should probably repeat what you told me. Yeah.
So I feel like, think about that. If you obviously have the vehicle that they're currently driving in their garage, or multiple vehicles, you can see that. So if they're driving same brand, what that looks like, your conversation is going to be different, because I know you already know the brand, if that's what you're driving. So now I just need to sell you on this car these features. Now, let's say you're driving a Mercedes and it's an Audi lead. I have to sell the brand before I sell the car. And a lot of times we run right into selling the car before we sell the brand. So I think that's an important thing. Household income, credit score, that may align to say, think about it. If you have a 530 Beacon score customer and they put a lead in on a new LTZ Tahoe, at a 700 plus payment, probably not a good fit. I don't know, unless they hit the lottery, inheritance. But then I would think I might ask different questions of that consumer.
How much money are you putting down?
Like, how much money do you have in your bank account today? So you start thinking about those things in a different light. And so I think part of this exercise, I think with Joe and you and the audience, is like, what else would be really cool to see, touch, have? Because I think what got me started on this was the whole Cambridge Analytica thing that went down, right? And them saying they literally have 10,000 data points on every person in the US. And let me tell you, 10,000 data points. They know more about you than your spouse, your friends. They know more about your behavior, what you will do, actions you will take. And that, to me, got me thinking. I was like, well, we probably don't have 10,000 data points that we could easily grab on a car lead, but we definitely can grab data points and make it a more valuable experience for the consumer, as well as for the salesperson to be more successful.
If I could dovetail on that just for a second. So what also is interesting with the Cambridge breach, the breach, where they just like had so many data points and so many people, is that I was looking for a revolt by the Facebook users. Never happened.
No.
It's like we have this ever-raising tolerance for how much of our information is out there and available. And with that will become more and more, we're talking with regards to this conversation, more and more of this information will be available to the seller to help facilitate a sale. So in a weird way, this Cambridge's, the fact that it didn't crush Facebook tells us that the customer doesn't care. Sorry.
Yeah, the Facebook didn't even get upset about some of the net metering stuff or net neutrality stuff that was out recently too. It is a little scary what we're not paying attention to these days.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think it's from, if you watch Congress and you watch the questions they ask Zuckerberg, right? It's the realization the average person wouldn't even know the questions to ask.
That's true.
We just don't know the amount of data. And I will tell you, Cambridge Analytica is one of many companies. And there are companies I've talked that have more data points.
Well, Equifax, that's
far more and far-reaching data and analysis of us. I always feel like people think we are snowflakes and feel like we're in control of our behavior and all those things. We're pretty predictable creatures. And, that's good and bad. But the interesting thing behind that, I still think, is, we can take some of this in a positive way and make a better experience for the consumer by aligning a better product experience for them and speeding up that process as a salesperson, that I don't waste time. And that another thing is like the idea of having suppression data. So you have all these leads you're working and you're calling. I mean, Alex, you grew up in the car business. I did. You're calling leads, and Joe, we're calling leads over and over again. They bought a week ago, 2 weeks ago, but our CRM still
never happened.
It never happened. Right. And are those people going to ever call us and say, Alex, you're awesome. Hey, I just want to let you know I bought from your competitor. He gave me a better deal, and he was just a nicer guy. And he didn't have a beard, and I liked him more.
His breath didn't smell as bad as yours.
Yeah. So that's never going to happen. So with suppression data, you would instantly be able to say, hey, these guys have bought same brand in market or different brand in market or same brand out of market. And to me, that at least speeds the salesperson to say, hey, I don't need to waste my time. And maybe you put those customers in a 3-year touch file in a CRM or something. But that, to me, again, is using data in a new, enriching way.
Yeah. Well, can we take a step back?
Sure.
God, I'm trying to think, how many years would it be? At least 10, to the Polk days. Oh, yeah, Christopher, good one. Christopher threw in a Beard's rule. We got to go.
Yeah.
Definitely, buddy. But back to Polk. So Polk used to sell a product called lead scoring.
Yes.
And I don't recall it being widely adopted by the vast majority of dealers. However, it was definitely adopted by larger groups.
Mile one. Yeah.
Yep, Mile One. And that was how I really got to know it initially. And then I got to know the Polk guys a little better when I started working at dealer.com. And we talked about ways of implementing lead scoring and in various dealer.com products. So I got quite intimate with what they did and how they did it. But where is it now?
It's almost part of it. I think we've gone past lead scoring to a degree. But I believe the algorithm's better. I think they're doing it more internally than it's being publicly shown. For some of these companies, that they're just not putting a score on it. The only fear with scoring that
So you mean it's gone from being a dealer product to an OEM product?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I think fear as a salesperson, if it's scored and if it's a 4, how much effort do I put in it? But that 4 could take 2 actions and become a 9 tomorrow.
Right. Good point.
And that's so hard. And the algorithms have to be so on point for the accuracy of that. And, as a dealer, we'll put the attention to where, I only deal with 8s and above, I mean, it's like girls you want to date, right? You don't want a 3. I mean, so unless you just want someone to sit home and cook.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Yeah. Depends on what time of the evening it might be too.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, as a joke, I feel like the whole idea was, you know, the scoring maybe sets up a mental block for some people. I don't know. And I think those algorithms have gotten a lot better, though, in theory, you know.
So Equifax, they do things based off of trying to figure out what neighborhood somebody lives in to kind of report on the whether or not they're going to buy and whether they can. So it looks at neighborhood data as a way of sort of de-anonymizing some stuff. And then I think I might be going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I had also heard a lot of it can come from magazine subscriptions, and you know, that's some of the data sources for where this stuff comes from, which is kind of crazy because you'd never think that that kind of stuff is what would fuel these things. So when we talk about making a better lead, we obviously are going to have to rely on third-party data to do it, right?
Yes.
So, you know, that's expensive unless you look at some other sources, right?
It can be, right? Depends on sources.
And it also depends on how efficient it is, how well it sells the car. If it's expensive and knocks the ball over the fence, it's not expensive any longer.
Yeah, and it's got some good value.
Good point.
Absolutely. So we have a Dealer Refresh community member who, for his sake, I'll keep his name out of this, but he was telling me in a private conversation that some of these attribution companies out there are really behind. Like a lot of what they're supplying to dealers is like, you know, sometimes a quarter behind. The actual data is a quarter behind. Sometimes it's 6 months behind even. And there's a lot of holes in the APIs that they supply the data with and things like that. So it makes these services quite unreliable. And I'm speaking about the third-party data providing services. So, you know, as we talk about trying to make a better internet lead, and we know that third parties can be expensive and they can be unreliable, what can we do with first party data, or what can we change to get better first party information? First party meaning it came off the dealer's website.
Yeah. I mean, think about it, Alex. You should know, you know as well as I do, there's so much data that's being generated from the dealership's website that has nowhere to live in most places. There's no places for it to really live in CRMs, in any rebundling and package to be useful. I mean, just seeing a long click stream of every vehicle they looked at, not very valuable. You need an algorithm to say, hey, the reality is he's looking at a Tahoe as his top pick and his second pick is X. So I feel like doing that stream, we have limitations on keyword data now, obviously. But I think first party data, it's interesting. So I was just with another company that does identity, where people visit the dealer website, do not raise their hand, don't submit a lead. So no text, no chat, no call, no email, just browsing the website, you can still identify them down to an email address and zip code and gender and income and a few other attributes. And then you can model it and do a few things. You could then send them email, which might creep them a little bit, but it also might be that thing where you go, ah, that was just in time. That's so weird. I was on their site and they sent me an offer for a $25 Starbucks coupon to test drive any car. It could be something as simple as a really geared up Facebook marketplace segmentation, like custom audience ad that's really driven to that consumer, not only on the product that they were on, but with using a little bit more intelligence. So there's some pretty cool stuff with identity that's being utilized. I don't see it as much in the, I really haven't seen it too much in the auto space at all, but it's there and it can be utilized. So,
you know, you mentioned Facebook. Somebody had posted up Wednesday. This is John V. Actually, let me put the thread up for everyone to see. That Facebook was going to stop automotive targeting. So we can all see this.
Yeah.
He's asking if anyone else is getting it, but with all the crazy stuff that's going on with Facebook, this wouldn't surprise me if they're trying to.
I think they're trying to probably modify.
Get a little less specific with things.
Yeah,
nice
we've gotten some interesting conversations with Facebook because they've been a partner of ours for a couple of years, and starting to limit data that they're willing to share. Obviously, once you get your hand slapped a few times in front of Congress and the EU, the reality is you're probably going to go like this, retract a little, and not share as much of that where they thought before it was okay. So they'll try to bundle it better and put a little bit more restrictions on it. So I think our targeting is probably going to change, but you got to think about it this way. If it hurts Facebook's ad sales, they cannot do it for a prolonged period of time. They're going to need to create another algorithm that still gives you that targeting so you find value in the product. Because when you start removing all this, you'll reduce value, and they can't afford to do that.
Yeah. The marketer in me says, I hope so. The American citizen in me says, no, but
right.
It's definitely a double-edged sword for us. As Steve Stawning says over here in the comments, that Zuck is probably getting tired of apologizing.
He probably has like a button on his desk. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I breached your data.
Sorry,
I breached your data. It's
sorry.
like the easy button. I'm sorry I breached your data. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Sorry, book.
Yeah, sorry, book. Right? Yeah.
So,
the guys, the leads are here. I guess the leads that we're talking about are really to help set up a more relevant discussion, human discussion, between buyer and seller, between sales rep and consumer. So the first party data idea that Alex was talking about, if, for example, the lead came in, says, hey, does this got a moonroof? Stock number 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the first party should be preparing to answer that and then answer that algorithmically, quickly, to help the sales rep not get bogged down. Yes, this has sunroof, and we have 3 other models that are more expensive and 2 other models that are less expensive. All have sunroofs kind of workflow.
Right.
And then, so that's one way to use first party.
So that goes back to something you always harped on when we were both working at dealer.com together, and that was hot options, I think is what you called it.
Yep.
And so if there was a device that allowed for, well, why don't you explain what hot options are real quick, and then we'll talk about the feasibility of seeing them on websites.
Car shoppers don't read, they scan. And actually, everybody on the internet doesn't read, they scan. But when car shopping, you're looking over a bullet list of hundreds and hundreds of features, from cigarette lighter to whatever, spare tire, and all you care about is those things that really ring your bell. And these are usually leather, heated this, all-wheel drive that, third row this, whatever, right? So those are the hot options that really cause a customer to react. That's what they're looking for. And so coming up with a method to key on those is helpful for buyer and seller.
So if a website or an app or a service or something were to classify those various options and present them to the consumer in such a way that they could say, I must have third row seating in this car, but I'd like to also have a moonroof. So my musts are third row, my likes are moonroofs, and then present that back to the sales agent. Now we're starting to get back on topic here, and that would be great for using first party lead information, giving it back to
sometimes the customer just wants to know if it's in stock. It's in stock, and it's always best to answer a question with a question. So yes, it is. But did you notice that we also have? Right. Throw them some. Customers love to say no to something too.
Actually, it's funny you say that. We can put a number on it thanks to Call Review. So Dealer Refresh sponsored Call Review has a study out. It's a very good read. And they say that 76% of the sales calls that come into the dealership are questions of availability. And then once that question's been answered positively, the question or the conversation immediately switches to some sort of price conversation. So there you go. 76% sales calls are about availability, according to Call Review.
You know, it's funny that chats literally align with that. That's a very similar structure. I mean, I wrote it down and I was like, yeah, that's pretty much dead on.
And to dovetail to that, so, you know, we try to get away from price. So is the car in stock? Yes, it is. Well, how about if I give you $5,000 less? And you, well, you know, so is the car in stock? Yes. Oh, and by the way, I've got 4 of them are just like that have a moonroof, and one of which is less than the one you're looking at. So you can get that car plus a moonroof. I can. So it's kind of like if the technology is there to help the sales rep take control of the conversation and lead it, and the aim of the conversation is to create a visit.
Right.
And you use inventory as a tool of a common language between buyer and seller, then that first party, leveraging first party inventory data would be helpful to make a sales rep more.
Well, we do have a question on that topic from George Nenny, and I'm probably, George, I always feel like I'm never pronouncing your name right, but he was just asking, why aren't more calls to action on websites about checking for availability?
You know,
I've got a thought, but you guys go ahead.
Oh, no, I'll take, listen, you have probably more experience at that than, I mean, I have my opinions, but I'm more interested. I think you have a full thought on it. So,
well, I just think that that dealers, for the most part, believe that the conversation with the customer starts at the price, and they're skipping past a lot of other pieces. So they're almost shortchanging themselves on the road to the sale. When you look at the road to the sale that we were all trained on when we were selling cars, there's a lot of steps before you get into the negotiation process. And so if you think of that, the customer's going down a journey on the road to the sale as well. When they're on your website, there are some things that they need answered before they're ready to jump into a price conversation, such as availability. And I just think, George, that dealers haven't fully realized that, or they're not thinking it through all the way.
right. And then let's couple that with a lot of websites are designed not to make availability the primal driver of it.
Oh yeah, like get e-price.
Right. And it's like I look at websites as we took our double truck advertising in the paper, put it on the internet.
Dude, you just showed your age, man.
I know, but come on, man. That's okay. But I feel like that's what we did. We put our display ads and we put them on the internet and we said, that's a website. And we want the consumer to kind of do the same things instead of backing them up and first doing a better needs analysis. Think about what website have you experienced as a first party that does a really good needs assessment journey before they just jam you to a VDP page with get a price.
Let's see.
I'm trying to jump out of the car business and think of something here.
Select new or used,
Right.
Select year, select make, select model. That means I have to know all of that to get to a VDP. Well, select trim.
But maybe it's not. Maybe you ask questions like, it could be, I put my machine learning AI brain on for a second, and it's, how many seatbelts does your family require? Gas mileage important to you? Do you drive it for work or you have kids? With equipment. Do you drive it wherever? It's like, or you want a sport utility vehicle or you want something smaller? I think that way you kind of help narrow the field for the consumer to make it palatable. And then you show them the options, and these are available. Have you driven any of these to get them thinking? I find like with lead generation, a lot of times as a salesperson, or we generate a leads generated and we go full in to try to sell them that car. When we know statistically 60% of people are going to buy an alternative product. So that's why I was trying to understand, if you had better data on the consumer around the lead, you'd be able to back up a second and get a better feel for what are you really trying to sell this person.
It's all about relevance and how do you use outside data. How can outside data narrow the consideration set or create a consideration set that's relevant? So if the shopper's chosen used low mile, third row, all-wheel drive, domestic, and they're asking about it, but they're very likely to buy something else, how does the outside data improve the rep's ability to convince the customer there not only is this in stock, but there are other ones that you would like?
Right. And listen, I think a utility needs to, whatever it is, it's not only developing the data around the lead, you have to have a good utility to share your product, AKA your inventory, with the consumer in the conversation, in like a real-time fashion, that they get it and they understand it and they go, oh, I get that. Oh, I don't like that one. Well, why don't you like that one, Mr. Customer? Well, I don't like that silver. Okay, that kills silver. You know, whatever that is. So it's like a visual storytelling process. So to me, what can be an easy tool to be able to do something?
Well, it's funny. You opened a door ever so slightly, but I'm going to open it quite a bit just to jump through it. And this is for Jeff, who, if you're tuning in late, yeah, arg everybody. He couldn't be here because he got some glass in his eyes. Unfortunately, having to get surgery to get it out. So next week, tune in, and we'll all be wearing eye patches for Jeff.
Arg.
Yep, bring your best pirate voice.
Yeah.
But so Jeff, we were on the phone earlier today, and he wanted me to ask, had you ever thought about turning off the forms on your website during business hours and making them all chats? And
you said that.
Softball. You go, Todd.
That was easy. Hey, thanks for the ball. I can say one of the largest groups in America, we've been testing that, and it's pretty interesting data so far. I find that, you know, when you look at forms, I view a couple different types of forms, right? There's the forms like on the OEM site that requires birth certificate, social security number, home address, blood type. Like, no one's filling out all that data unless, I mean, and I know they need that data because they mash it against Experian or Axiom data, and they have a different mindset of how they're looking to connect dots up. But consumers don't give a crap about that. And, you know, then you have the short forms like that, hey, just give me your name, email, or name, email, phone, and I'll give you information, which always have a higher threshold rate. And we see that even with chat. So when you ask for more than a customer's name to enter the chat, number of chats go down. If you have no barrier to entry, chats go up. So I think the goal always when I look at forms versus chats are, can you provide an instant gateway to get the consumer to the answer they want in a time frame they want, which is now, and sand away any of the barriers on that journey. And to me, by requiring lots of information up front, you're only impeding the road. Now, you may want that data for whatever reason, but the reality is it's better to get someone in a conversation and have a really good crafted conversation, like skill set and path, than to try to demand lots of information up front. So, but yes, we've been testing that, and I will say, I would not be surprised if forms go away in some period of time.
I
think you and I should talk more about this after the show.
Okay. It may not be instant, but I will tell you there's a path to that, and I think it's coming. And I can't believe one of the big guys wanted to test it. And I was like, absolutely. Yes, I love your idea. Let's do it. I was like, let's do them. They can chat or text and like, or even messenger. I don't care. Let's just get them into something real right now.
Earn their information, so to speak.
Because the thing about a form is like, to me, a form's an email. Email's archaic. It's been around since the 60s. It requires a slow volley back and forth. We don't live in a slow volley back and forth anymore. We want something right now. And we want to move on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, have you downloaded the Atom app for movies to buy tickets? Oh, you got to get Atom. So, you know, there's
I've got kids. Movies just don't happen anymore.
Yeah. Movies still happen. And, well, Atom, you buy your tickets on the app, but then you also can order your popcorn, water, or water and everything else you want. So when you walk in, you scan your tickets. There's no waiting. It auto knows you're in the vicinity because of geolocation. And you walk over the counter and your popcorn and water is sitting there. So, and back to a scary thought is geolocation. Would dealers be interested to know that a consumer who submitted a lead is on a other dealer's physical location at any moment? That data is available. So, interesting story, nothing to do with car business, but a good friend of ours, Cliff Banks, we were talking and I was in Detroit and he's like, Todd, how the heck did they do this? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I was in Kroger's. I do the shopping for my family. I do all the grocery shopping. I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, I didn't have the Kroger's app and I wasn't on the Kroger's Wi-Fi. And I'm walking through Kroger store and I go down the frozen food aisle, which I don't often do. And I stop and they had a Jack Daniel's like Salisbury steak and he opens up the freezer and he pulls it out. He looks at both sides of the box, puts it back, leaves, goes home, gets on his computer, Salisbury steaks on his Facebook feed. So I was like, whoa. I said, okay, well, this is interesting. So I actually figured out, it took a little bit. So I had a series of questions. Like one, did you have Facebook Messenger open? Because Facebook Messenger has an open mic. So if you have that open, it's actually listening to everything you say, every word you're saying. He said no.
But if you didn't speak, that one.
Yeah, I know. So I was
that
like.
was my first thought too.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. Then the next thought, I was like, well, Kroger's has a secret tech division. It's not even a name. It's called a number. It's like 1492. I think it was a birth of America. I think it actually is. And they're like spending Amazon money. So I'm pretty sure they have pixelated the whole store. And when you hit the store using Bluetooth, it's literally tracking all the people moving around. Now I guaranteed on his phone, there is an app that is selling data to Kroger's, which was able to connect.
Oh, that makes sense.
And it put him in the exact location. And then it was just Kroger's ability to kind of guesstimate what he picked. And I think they just got it right. But the thing is, all these apps on our phones are selling tons of data, and you can roll up that data and do obviously amazing things. Like you've had that, like it's almost like you thought about something and then all of a sudden it's on your Instagram feed. You're like, how did that happen? Ooh. And that's because of this other data.
There was there's an article I caught earlier this week. A group had figured out a way to track you through your phone without your GPS enabled. They do it through the accelerometer feature.
Yeah.
And they can figure out based on the accelerometer and where you're hitting Wi-Fi spots exactly where you are. They need 7 to 9 days to figure out your routine.
Yeah.
Boom, they got you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just live in a different, world. One of the guys I know, like their job, that's government job. His job is to find people around the planet. And it's amazing. This is why people avoid having cell phones. That's why they have burner phones, and they'll hold them for hours and they get rid of them because at any point they're able to link up huge amounts of data on you.
Yeah, despite how we might feel about Europe sort of legislating our internet for us now, the GDPR stuff that came out in May, and sort of what that's setting the stage for in privacy, could help here a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
You guys familiar with that, beyond just the fact that we've got to accept cookies for every single damn website we touch right now?
Yeah.
And all the new privacy statements.
Yeah, and then obviously that vertically orients things versus allowing you to scale. Like a super cookie would normally allow you to touch multiple sites to like connect all the pieces. The problem, even on the individual sites, there's enough ancillary other data that a good algorithm will piece it still back together, that knows that you were on all these sites. You don't need a super cookie any longer. You know, it's almost like the machine learning algorithms are outpacing anything a cookie could have ever done.
This conversation makes me believe that the human-to-human connection, the salesman-customer connection, is going to get more valuable in the future.
Well, let's
the digital what's the right word, infiltration can hit a threshold and cause people to push back on it. And then when you need information that you can trust, you go to somebody who's a known domain expert, a sales rep, a dealership, a place that has real humans.
I think we'll hit on this a little bit more next week, as we do explore the future of attribution modeling with John Berna. So that'll be a fun show next Friday.
Nice preview segue. Oh, you're getting good at this. Damn.
However, I do want to explore a question that Rick Buffkin threw out.
Okay.
You're always good.
Rick's always full of good stuff. So Rick asks, think if you get more detailed info in the form, does that equal a stronger / better lead?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, so the question would be a form lead coming from, let's say, General Motors directly, which has a lot of obviously has home address, consumer committed to a lot more data at that point.
Yeah, maybe they even said what their credit rating was. And
versus a lead coming from a dealer's website. So you could probably go into your system and determine, are the factory leads closing at a higher rate than your own website? And I would think, I don't know.
Is that what Rick means?
I'm not sure. I almost wonder if Rick's more asking if there's a trade-off between asking for more data and maybe getting less leads, or trying, I don't know. I don't know if it's a quality question there.
I mean, the interesting thing,
maybe he'll he'll explain this a little further.
I mean, the reality is, if you look at it, you need is if you have an email address, you can basically blow up, get more data than a consumer would ever willingly provide you right now. It's just a question of where would you put it and what would you do with it.
Right.
So why go to the point of trying to solicit it? The data is already there. I mean, and an email address is probably one of the best markers to basically append huge amounts of data points against. It's actually better than believe it or not, is become better than a phone number, which to me was shocking. But all the data points that the email address is the driver. And with that email address, I could find out anything about you: household income, gender, habits, credit, current in your garage, payments, revolving credit line, married, divorced, children.
Whether the Russians are watching you.
Yes, who they voted for.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So it's almost like, in my mind, I'm listening to Todd go down the attribute list and how deep and granular it gets. I bet you there's just guesswork that if you collect enough attribute data, you could probably predict what the credit score would be if you didn't know it already.
Yes. Yeah, but listen, behavior predicts a lot of things. And with a good algorithm, it doesn't take too long and too much data. Good example, like we helped launch with Facebook Marketplace, right? because obviously the only way to connect on any of those cars is you have to chat. There is no lead form. You can't put your phone number in to call any of those cars. And it was very interesting. They told us in 4 months, their algorithm would be so predictive to what cars to show to what people based on their data that was it. It was going to take them 4 to 6 months for that algorithm to really blossom, because also you also have to remember they have massive traffic, right?
Right.
So a dealership would take longer. But the reality is you're not dealing with the dealership, you're dealing with all those consumers, and all those consumers are being touched by so many touch points across the known digital universe. So, yeah.
Well, have we stalled long enough for Rick to give us something back? And the answer to that is no.
Okay.
Where are you, Rick?
So,
I see he's still watching, but he stopped commenting.
yeah. So no, I think it's interesting. I mean, and I feel like if you ask for less data though, you're going to get, I think, higher reception up front, especially if you're willing to give data. You know, if I only needed an email address and I'm willing to give you a price, that people will be like, oh, that's great. And not knowing that I've secretly in the background collected every piece of data on you that now I can utilize in some capacity, right? And obviously for the good of the sale.
Cool. Yeah, so Rick commented, he's having a problem with his website. So yeah.
Poor Rick.
So maybe, you look at conversion. I also think, a lot of studies have been done with the IMAP studies. Less is more. When you put so much on those VDP pages and choices and exit paths, a lot of times consumers just don't know what to do and they just kind of stall themselves.
Well, then that connects to why leads are sent in anyways. I'm a big believer that a great engine of leads is a bad web experience. Right?
I love your theory on this, and I am a bit of a subscriber to it. Please enlighten.
Right?
Yeah, come on, Joe, bring it home.
Well, so this ties to Jeff's thought: where drop all leads during store hours and go chat only. So when I do user tests, I give a shopper a mission to find a year, make, model trim under $300 a month with miles less than 30,000, and you only got 7 minutes because that's how long your break is, and go. And they push and they click and they run and they know they're running out of time, and they just hit this wall. It could be a time constraint. It could be just like an ocean of information that just takes too long to consume. And so what they want to do is they want to chat. They want somebody to say, I need this year, make, model trim under $300 a month. What do you got? Click. And then somebody else does it for them, because we don't understand how laborious it is to grind through all those pages to try to get the consideration set small to a point where, yeah, this is the one I want. It's a long, hard road.
So you're saying if they can't find the answer in the website, that they head to chat or a lead?
Yep, I do.
What happens if you had like some levers on the top? Like, here's all the dealer's inventory and just levers. So you hit your price, what you want payment, you hit what size vehicle you want, mileage you want, and then literally it's returning only those. You know what I mean? You almost have levers to get you to where you want to go instantly. Well,
you kind of have that on the listings pages.
Yeah, no. I mean, you still got to sort through them and kind of grind through, type in, do the drop downs.
Well, how good those are is definitely a question.
Yeah, that's the truth there. So
yeah, but I do want to expand a little bit on what Joe was saying there, and then we'll wrap things up unless you guys have some more to add. But to Joe's point, if you want to increase the number of leads that you're receiving, fuck your website up.
Yeah. If you want more leads, take off the photos. If you want more leads, take off the price. You'll get your sales will go right in the shitter, but man, you'll have leads. Wow, look at all these leads.
And that is our lesson for the day, folks.
That it is. Just put up a sign. Yeah. Where's the inventory? You just got to find it. Yeah. It's all here. We'll figure it out.
I went to price a Nissan. They got that new platinum Nissan diesel truck. This is some beautiful thing. I took a ride in and I said, wow, I want to know how much this is. I went to the Nissan USA site, and for me to shop for the truck required my full name, address, and all this other. I go,
yeah,
fuck you. No.
Yeah.
No. So
Uncle Joe F you. Yes.
That's right. Put me in your bounce stats.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, folks, again, we're sorry Jeff couldn't join us today. He is having some emergency surgery. It's not as bad as it sounds, I think, but he's trying to get some glass that came off a broken bottle or something out of his eye. Could happen to any of us. So again, we see him next week. We will not talk about his hair. We'll talk about his eye.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Aye, aye.
Yep.
Yeah, stay out of our fights.
And next week we have John Berna on from Driven Data, and we're going to be talking about, to Ed Brooks's delight, how attribution modeling is dead, or how it's going to be dead. So tune in if you're a marketer.
Cool.
You probably want to hear about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. It was fun.
But
always fun.
Yeah. And Todd, I'll catch up with you later.
Yeah, man. Give me a call. You have my number still, right?
Yep.
321-662-7800. Boom.
Oh, now everyone else does too.
That's okay.
All right. See you guys.
bye, guys.